Welcome to Wrestling with Fitness, a monthly accountability podcast collaboration of the For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network and Shotgun Wrestling Radio. Here are your hosts, Shotgun Wrestling Radio's Zach Takis and the Wizard CZ from the card, Subject to Change.
It's just so much fun hearing our names announced at that open, isn't it? Zach, you look a little frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear me, buddy, or maybe I'm frozen. I don't know. We're all frozen in time. Let me try something here. See if we can get Zach a little boost. Pop out, pop in. Zach, can you hear me? Nope. All right. Well, Justin will we'll have him come back in whenever he's ready. I'm going to send him a message. But as you can see, we have another guest here this month on Wrestling with Fitness, our monthly accountability podcast, Mr. Justin Decent. Justin, how you feeling today, man?
Man, I feel great. It's a beautiful day. Well, it's a cloudy, overcast day, but it was still beautiful enough. Heart's beating, lungs are drawing air. It doesn't get much better.
Right. Any day above ground is a good day, right?
There you go.
Exactly. And Zach's finally moving again.
As we say on Card Subject to Change, Zach, welcome back to the show.
Woo!
Now that Zach is back and fully animated again, before we really get into the show, Zach and I were looking at a screen grab from our first episode back in February, and I'm going to throw it up. He and I
don't throw up. We don't want to see that.
No. I'm gonna pop that on the screen. How about that? And I'm definitely seeing a difference in the face.
Yeah.
It's easier to tell with Zach just because my beard is like ridiculously bushy back in February, but I can still see it. So I think that's flipping awesome. Zach, what do you think, man?
Yeah, well, like we were saying before we kind of hopped on, I was trying to figure out how long ago we started the show, and I was like, oh, let's take a little screen grab from that first episode back in February, because that's, again, 4 months ago, and we've been working pretty hard here the last 4 months. So, yeah, it's kind of fun to see. We can kind of see a difference, and you can see your progress actually happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, and honestly, with as hit and miss as I've been over the last month, I don't know what the deal is, why I'm looking better, but I'm still working on it.
So, well, and again, that's kind of one of the great things about this show too, man. Again, you and I have always been kind of helping each other, and our guest here tonight, I didn't really, I guess, know this about you either, Justin, but you are a bona fide certified trainer, personal trainer, and which doesn't really surprise me. As many tag team titles as you have won in your time in pro wrestling, that explains an awful lot.
Absolutely, man. No, yeah, I am a NSCA certified personal trainer. I've been a certified personal trainer since 2014. Okay. I also have a secondary certification in something called TRX, which is a suspension system that can be utilized in training. It's a cool piece of equipment that I like. But I started out so I like to think of it this way. I've discovered there are always exceptions, but there are two primary versions of a personal trainer that I've run into. You either have somebody who was an athlete and was always in shape, and just that is just part of who they are, and that's all they knew, and that's the career path they chose. Or you find somebody who battled with weight themselves, overcame that, and went, I want to help other people do what I just did. And that was me. I spent 6 years in the Army. I got out, got into professional wrestling, and I took a lot of things for granted. I was a Army veteran. I got out in shape. I started wrestling. I'm like, I'm a professional wrestler. I'm an athlete now. That's going to keep me in shape. But I really didn't go to the gym like I should have. I ate garbage. I drank beer all the time. I knew guys named Jim. I couldn't tell you where one was, right? And then 2010, Raw came to Des Moines. And just like everybody else, I'd sent my stuff in. Back in the good old days, you had to submit your stuff, hardcover. You had to send a letter. You had to send a DVD. I'd done all the things. And a couple of guys got chosen to do extra talent. One was still in training. He had only been training maybe 6 weeks. And the other guy had recently finished training, was exceptional, but in my mind, at this point, I'm a few years in. What about me? I know I'm a better performer. I know I'm a great performer. What's holding me back? Oh, the 280 pounds I'm carrying around. And so I took a hard look at myself and what I wanted to do, and just kind of hit that realization that I think a lot of people get into pro wrestling. A lot of wrestlers take the physical part for granted because there are tremendous performers who maybe their body wasn't their thing. I mean, there's Dusty Rhodes, there's Kevin Owens, but for every one of those guys, there's 100 Lex Lugers and John Cena's and, body guys. So I think we kind of get in our head that, yeah, because we could look at wrestling and make a claim that it's not a competitive sport per se, that means we don't need to be athletic. And I kind of fell into that a little bit myself and realized that's not who I wanted to be in wrestling. That's not who I wanted to be in my life. And so I started going to the gym, and it was rough at first. I worked second shift. So I was going to the gym at 2 a.m. But that was secretly my key to success, and I didn't know it. Because like everybody else at that time, like I had this vision of myself, and I had this vision of what gym culture was. And so I was intimidated. Like, I'm a professional wrestler, and I'm nervous to go into a gym because I don't feel like I look the part. I'm intimidated by these other guys who do look the part. Like, do I belong in here? Who's going to look at, all of that. And I finally, for me, it helped that I was able to initiate that journey kind of on my own. I'm kind of an independent person. I really like to work within myself a lot. And so I started going in 2 a.m. And at first it was just something I did maybe once a week, twice a week, then 3 times a week. And then slowly as I started to see the benefits, but more importantly, when you start to feel the benefits, and that was the thing. Suddenly I could have better matches. I could run better. I could bump better. I didn't hurt so much the next day. I was getting more bookings because, hey, there's a guy who we might actually put on our poster. And it really just kind of blossomed from there. And I just fell in love with it. I love the act of working out. I love the feeling. I love the muscle soreness. For me, the battle was always getting there. What is going to overcome my couch? What's going to overcome tomorrow? Because that's the biggest problem in anybody's fitness journey is that one word, tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. I missed this one, but I'll get it tomorrow. And tomorrow is never going to be today. You have to do it today.
Hitting right home.
I made that decision.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's how I found myself down that path. And then that eventually led to I was going to college to be a mechanical engineer. And as things got harder, because I also worked full-time, I was working full-time second shift. I was going to college. So I was getting up at 6 to 7 a.m. to go to class, going to class till early afternoon, go to work, get off at 2, go to the gym, get home 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm laying down for my hour or two. And then I'll be very honest, I've always been a terrible student. So that was the first thing that went. Started missing classes. But I never missed a workout. I missed a lot of classes. Never missed a workout. And finally I was like, okay, this isn't working out. I put school off to the side and just said, that's not my jam right now. I'm not in a place to do it. And then a couple years go by and my wife looks at me and says, every time anybody asks you a fitness question or a workout question, you get really excited. Have you ever thought about that? No, I hadn't, but I am now. So actually, right about the time we got married, I went back to school and started pursuing fitness and personal training, exercise science.
Now, you said a couple of things that really stood out to me. First of all, when you first started talking, you were talking about two kinds of people. People who Zach and I fall into, even though we're not like, for me anyway, I'm not where I want to be, but the whole reason we started this podcast is because we thought that our experiences and our journey as we go along would help people. So when you said something about that really hit home. But getting off the couch, that has always been the hardest thing for me, is just getting out the door or getting in the door at the gym. And I'm going to paraphrase a quote from a musical that I really enjoyed growing up. Not part of a song, but there's a musical called The Music Man. One of the characters says, if you keep putting things off until tomorrow, all you have left is a whole bunch of empty yesterdays.
Beautiful. I love that. Now, I do request next time you reference a musical, please sing to me.
If that had been in song, I would have considered it. I strongly would have considered it, but that was a spoken line, not a song line.
Well, another thing that you said too, and I said it on probably our very first episode, the hardest part is walking through that door. That's the hardest part. And I heard something the other day too, that they say it takes about usually 3 months to develop a routine. So it's like until you actually start consistently, you're probably always going to be like what you said. Oh, I skipped today. Fine, whatever. I'll get back to it tomorrow. But it's like as soon as you kind of roll off that routine, it can really kind of mess you up mentally. For me, I'm usually in the gym 3 days a week, and another 3 days a week I'm doing some type of cardio at home. Usually, it's kind of my routine.
Mm-hmm.
That for me speaks volumes, Zach, because I've said it, I believe, last month on our episode. I am notorious for starting and stopping and starting again and stopping again. And it's a mental block for me. It's hard to get past. I don't have a set routine that I'm comfortable with yet, because there are days where I just was like, okay, I'm gonna do it tomorrow, and I hate myself for it. But at the same time, it's like I said, it's all up here. It's hard to get past that mental barrier that I have, and I'm working on it. But that's the hardest part for me is getting into that routine and getting past that mental barrier of, you have to do this.
Mm-hmm. I remember the moment I realized, and the hard part is it's going to be a permanent battle, because I remember when I realized I'd finally made the turn on that. I was driving home. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm coming from Des Moines to Ames, and I'm tired. It'd been rough. And I'm like, I'm just not going to do it today. I'm not going to do it. I can miss one. And unconsciously, I took the exit anyway. I pulled up to the gym anyway and went, this isn't home? Okay, let's do it. Like, my body and mind said, you can think so, but we're not doing that anymore. But then again, life happens. Now I'm sitting. Had a couple injuries, a couple kids in the last 3 years, and I'm back to battling again. I can admit that. It is always hard because the world gives you so many options and excuses to say, "Ooh, but I've got to do this, but I've got to do that, but I've got to do this." And I think for me, it's getting to that point where I have to realize that I'm really just making excuses, and that isn't that important, or that can wait, or my stepfather always had a saying that I loved, and I find it kind of applicable, and that's, you can't save them all, Hasselhoff. A lifeguard can't help somebody if they're drowning. If you aren't putting in work on yourself, how much can you help somebody else? And I think that's a mindset that can kind of help out when we find ourselves too in the weeds of, oh, I can't work out because I'm a dad, or I can't work out because I'm a mom, or, my responsibilities are more important than taking care of myself. No, it isn't, because if you don't take care of yourself, long term, those responsibilities crumble because you are no longer the foundation you once were. But that battle is why in-home fitness equipment and videos is one of the most lucrative businesses that there is, because the battle of the couch almost always wins in 3 weeks. Week 1, you get your P90X. You hit it hard. You do every day. And then you're sore as hell. You hate yourself. You take a couple days off. And then when you come back next week, okay, every other. Because I'm still a little sore. Maybe I'll ease up a little bit. Well, maybe there was a soccer game I had to get to on Tuesday. Week 3, you're down to 25% or less. And by week 4, you've just, I'll start again next week. I'll start again next week. Because we always have to start everything on a Monday. Calendar's the other thing that tricks us every time.
That
makes it another easy.
For me, it's Sunday. Cause my new week starts Sunday. So I go to the gym Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday are my typical gym days. Is kind of how I've looked at it since I really started going heavy since January here. But and it's one of those things too. Like when I first really started going back again and hitting it heavy starting in January. When I started January, I wish I would have. I didn't take any pictures when I started in January, and I wish I would have, just because as you see, because now I'm taking pictures month by month. So I'm like, wish I had taken those photos in January just to see where I was kind of at my heaviest to where I would be now. I started taking them in February, so it's like, okay, I'm partially kind of there. But yeah, it's one of those things. If you are going to start this journey, take pictures day one and go from there. That's what I would recommend, because you might kick yourself later on. Because I'll be honest, at first I was like, oh, I'm just going to do it to get myself in shape, not focus on any type of number or anything like that. And gradually you kind of get going. It's like, oh, let's just step on the scale and see what happens. And you actually see some results. And it's like, all right. And I was actually looking at my last physical I had last July, and I saw what the recommended weight that my doctor had me on, because I kind of started last July, fell off in the fall, and then we started up again here in January. I saw the weight goal that she had for me in there, and so as I was going, I was like, that's a pretty attainable goal. So that's where I kind of came up with the 230 number, because that was the goal that she had for me by the time I come back in July. So, and then for you, Justin, obviously, workouts are a big part of it too, but what's kind of been your nutrition routine? Because nutrition's obviously a big part of all this as well.
I've always been, and this applies to everybody wants to know, what's the magic thing to eat? What's the magic way to eat? What's the magic way to work out? You know what the answer is? Whatever consistently works for you. I found for me, simplicity was best. we all grew up knowing the basic food groups. I started with that. The only thing I ever tracked
Cookies, right?
was my yes. Cookies, candy corn.
Hey, it has corn in it. That means it's a vegetable, right?
Syrup. So for me, as far as tracking, I've always been I wanted to lose weight, but it wasn't for the sake of losing weight. I wanted to be stronger. So I always focused more on cultivating more muscle mass, but the more muscle mass you have, the more your body burns fat at rest. So naturally, you're going to lose more weight. To me, my focus was protein. One, for just the nutritional value, first and foremost. Your body needs that to recover, needs it to build. It's less readily stored as fat compared to your other macronutrients. And then therefore, the other thing I realized is the sense of satiation, the sense of feeling full really comes from eating that protein. If you look at your plate and you go, okay, I got my meat, I got my potatoes, I got my vegetables, and you start with that meat, you're going to get really, really full. And then by the time you get to those potatoes, you don't have nearly the same amount of space. Whereas good old Americans, especially Midwesterners, were like, where's that potato? Where's that bread? And we cram all those carbs in first and then jam the protein on the top. But we're so full of carbs that are just going to sit there because it's now, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. I'm just going to go watch TV and go to bed. But if we put that focus on that protein first, and then whatever is left in me at the end, maybe I'll eat some of them potatoes. I'll have a little, a slice of bread or a breadstick or whatever. It made a big difference. I didn't have to make a huge change in what I was doing as much as the strategy in which I attacked it. Because then you don't have that sense of a lot of what causes people to slip off of nutritional plans. I hate the word diet, is that feeling of missing out. But I like my cheesecake, but I like my bread because I like my whatever. Okay. The best way to find your way to portion control and that kind of thing is fill yourself up with the good stuff first. Keep healthy snacks on hand. I don't have any allergies to it, so I always kept a lot of mixed nuts around, a lot of jerkies, I was eating 2 cans of tuna with every meal just to add protein and limit some of that carb intake. It was just a matter of focusing on one instead of the other and putting that focus on it first.
Yeah, like for me, my diet hasn't been anything crazy. I have definitely done better portion control. I usually don't eat anything after 8 o'clock at night. Just that's kind of like my cutoff time. Like after 8, you're done. Cause bad for me, I was a really bad late night snacker. Like I was 10 o'clock at night. Let's have a few chips. And so that was one thing I was like, we need to cut out the late night snackage, but I still eat a lot of the same stuff I was eating. It's just better portion control. Like instead of say 2 bags of Gushers, you're only going to have 1 bag of Gusher and that type of thing. But I've also been finding people on like Instagram that have really great cooking recipes. There's a guy I follow, and this can go out for anybody. I think his handle is Cooking for Gains, I believe is what it is. But he has some great easy recipes that I've been using the last few weeks here. They had high protein breakfast burritos that are delicious, high protein pasta dishes that he's been made that have been absolutely phenomenal. And it's like, oh shit, I can enjoy pasta and not feel guilty about it. Sweet. Because who would have thought they made protein pasta?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the other one that really helped is my wife and I both cook. I like cooking. So there wasn't that, a lot of people don't cook and then it's okay, I have to go out for my food. Well, once you leave your house, keeping that nutrition under control becomes that much more difficult. because nobody markets a restaurant on how healthy their food is. It's how delicious it is. How much butter can we throw in this? How much fat and oil can we throw on top of this? How many breadsticks can we shove at you? Or you're looking for the quick fix. Can I get to a McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, whatever? I don't care for a lot of that. It upsets my stomach. So for me, it works out really well that I can just go home and, oh, well, hey, instead of a double cheeseburger from McDonald's and some fries, I'm going to cook me up the steak, and one, healthier, two, tastes better. So any amount of self-preparation of your food you can do is going to make a significant difference.
Yeah.
It also adds that element of responsibility and interaction with it. You know, when you know what it is you're truly putting in your body, when you're seeing it, you're a little more cognizant of what it is and what it isn't, and you don't just mindlessly cram it in there. You're a little more self-aware.
Right. Yeah. Like sorry, Chris, but the other nice thing too, it's like they'll tell you can get like your food prep bowls. They'll say, okay, now divide this up into like 6-7 meal containers. Like, okay, there's lunch for the week. You know what I mean? Take one of those for lunch every week, and yeah.
And I found that really benefited beyond just health and fitness. Is now you have you always think prepping will cost you time, and it does on one day, but you then save yourself a lot of time and energy with like, hey, now I don't have to run to the store 3 times this week to go get food, or, oh, I got a 30-minute lunch break and 20 of that's going to be driving down the street to the Burger King. You know, now I can relax and enjoy my meal because it's already prepared. It's in front of me. And if I take my time and enjoy it, I also don't eat as much of it because I'm savoring it. I'm enjoying it. I feel full. That sensation hits me at an appropriate level. The faster we eat, the more we outrace that signal that says, hey, I need to stop. Whereas if we eat slow, we feel full after eating less because that signal can get to the brain faster than we're shoveling it in. So I think anything you can do to prepare your own food helps in a multitude of ways.
And I've done a little of that. I need to do a lot more, but I'll speak for myself, and I've heard other people say this. When you're going out to the Burger Kings, the McDonald's, the portion control just goes right out the window. You're not paying as much attention to how much you're eating. You're like, oh, they've got cheesy tots and mozzarella sticks. I need all of that. Bring it on.
Cheesy tots.
Yep. Because your brain goes, I want that flavor. I want that flavor. I want that flavor. I want that flavor. And you don't think about the repercussions until after you've eaten it and you're just, oh.
Right. No, and I've been there more often than I care to share. But it's like you go, you know, I'm a carb junkie. I always have been. It's a habit that I find almost impossible to break. Not impossible, but almost. But I can remember back, and I've mentioned this before on other episodes, but I was down to 260, 280 about 10, 12 years ago. And a lot of my habits change when I change jobs. So like I was working for a local TV station here in the Quad Cities. They got bought out by another company and downsized. So I was on the chopping block, spent 6 months without a job, collecting unemployment, trying to find work, not having much success, and that not being able to go out as much. So while between looking for jobs, I was walking every day. I would make eggs with spinach and cheese, little cheese. I dropped considerably. And then I went back into the workforce, and I was going like traveling to work before work from home was really a big thing. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I got to catch the bus here, or I got to get to work in 15 minutes. I don't have time to prep anything for lunch. I'll just grab something while I'm out. And that mindset is dangerous. I know more than most people. So, but it's a hard habit to break. It's something I struggle with constantly.
My father, for a living, sold food to restaurants. And that was a constant battle for him, was what to eat. Because if he wasn't at a restaurant, he was driving between restaurants, you know? So he's either eating where he's selling his food or he's stopping somewhere on the way. And it ended up being a constant battle. I mean, he's, now that he's retired, he's actually finally able to get some of that weight off. But it took retiring and getting out of that environment for him to really be able to find that initiative to be able to do it.
Now, Justin, since you've been personal training, has there been any success story that you've had that one in particular that you were really, really stoked about, that like, hey, I helped them hit that goal?
Two of my favorites. One was a gal who came in, originally was working with her and her husband as a couples workout, but they were vastly different in what they needed. So I recommend they kind of split. And in the course of about a year and a half, she lost somewhere between 80 and 100 pounds. And to cap that, I remember, I'm pretty sure we made it to 100. But I know the day that she said she hit 80 pounds, I programmed a special workout that day. Everything we did that day was with that 80 pounds. Because sometimes we take for granted what that truly means for us to lose that weight. And to watch this woman grab the weight she was a year and a half previous and try to get through even an hour of working that rate around and feeling what that difference is. Because I did basic stuff like, hey, we're just going to do a farmer's walk with it so you can feel what it was like to walk at the weight you were a year ago. It was awesome to see in her eyes that realization of, wow, I really have changed myself. Because the numbers are numbers. Until you make that connection of what it means, what that number means to you and your health and well-being and how you feel, I think we take it for granted. It's just a number. We're comparing to others. But the minute you start to feel it, it makes it personal, and now you're invested. Now you're going to stick with it. The other one was a gal who she's very tall. Her whole family is very tall, but she had some spinal issues and was hunched quite a bit. And we did a lot of work on stretching and strengthening her back. And in the course of about a year and a half, she came back to a session one day and said, hey, I just came from my doctor's appointment, and I'm actually 1.5 inches taller than I was last year because I can stand straighter. I was never a workout guy. Like I myself was a big guy when I was working at the gym. I was that trainer who was always powerlifting off in the corner between sessions. But the clients I preferred were things like that. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this element of my life, because guys who like to be jacked know how to get jacked. I enjoyed dealing with individuals who had this situation in their life that they wanted to change for health reasons, to feel better. So this woman had chronic back pain and was hunched and hurt, and we got her to stand taller. Just the ability to help grandparents play with their grandchildren and things like that were the things that I really found most rewarding. So when I approached new clients, again, this kind of goes back to that two different kinds of trainer. So and I've noticed this, it doesn't matter if it's the tech world, if it's the physical world, personal training and things like that, or even wrestling, like you have the people who want you to understand so you can relate. And then you have the people who want you to know how intelligent they are. And that is one, so you buy into their wealth of knowledge. You need to know I'm the subject matter expert. So I'm going to tell you, hey, today we're going to work on your subscapularis, your supraspinatus, and that doesn't necessarily mean anything to you, but it tells you I have an education. And that's where a lot of trainers, I think, get hung up, is they feel like that's what somebody wants from me. Just like you go to the doctor and they throw out all those words that you're like, cool, I can't repeat that. But I always approach things like, I always like to do a sit down and say, what do you do? What do you enjoy doing? What are the things that make you happy in life that you want to go out and enjoy? Oh, I've got kids and they like to do this. Cool. We're going to do these exercises because they emulate this play with your child, this activity with your son, this, walking of your dog. In fact, I worked at a Anytime Fitness in Beaverdale, and there was a retirement community about a half block away, give or take. We ended up making a deal with them where I just taught a free class in the morning. I think it was 3 days a week, where all we would do is work on balance, walking up and down stairs, just like the very basic mobility things that people struggle with at that age. I found that incredibly rewarding. I wrote a paper on the benefits of boxing and fitness for persons with Parkinson's. So for me, it was always about how can I take a problem and help somebody feel better about their life, as opposed to how can I get John jacked,
And
Now
with me, I'm not looking to get jacked by any means. I never say never, but I'm never going to get there. I'm just looking to be. I want to go to a wrestling show and sit in an ungodly, uncomfortable folded steel chair comfortably.
So says every person with a ticket.
but you can get there. It's like I bring a cushion because I can't sit in those chairs. I have trouble sitting in my work chair, which I'm in right now, for 9 hours a day when I'm sitting here doing my phone job. I got to get up, and I apologize to my boss, but it's like I got to get up at least once an hour and move for about 2, 3, 5 minutes. And if you don't understand that, then too bad.
They actually say it's recommended. They actually say it's recommended too. Like if you're working a desk job like you and I, they actually say it's recommended you get up at least once an hour for a few minutes and just get yourself moving. That's why I like it when my watch yells at me saying, "Hey, get active," and I'll get up and go do a lap around the building or whatever. And yeah, but yeah, it is recommended that you do that if you're working a 9 to 5 desk job.
Well, and that's really one of the most contributing factors to, if you talk to most people, the number one complaint I would get when talking with people about their body when they would come in, because a lot of gyms offer like, hey, you get one free personal training session. I worked at Ames Racket and Fitness, or Ames Fitness Center. And at the time, what we did is we actually did 2. You did one session where you sat down with the trainer. We didn't even work out. I just got to know you. We talked about your life. And then we would do a free workout session where I could cater it to what we talked about. And the number one thing I would find from people is like, because I'd always ask, do you have any physical limitations? Do you have any injuries? Almost everybody thinks they have bad knees. 90% of America thinks they have bad knees. And it isn't bad. It's that they're not being used because we sit so much. And then as a side effect of sitting, we get really tight inside the thigh. And then that pulls our legs in, pulls our knees in. Now our knees aren't in alignment. And it's all from how much we sit, because we become a technology-driven society, and 90% of our jobs involve sitting. I mean, I spend ungodly amounts of time sitting in a van currently with my job. We have to make more of a conscious effort to get up every once in a while, walk around, move about. As cheesy as it sounds, squeeze the cheeks. The bad knees and the tightness in the thighs creates also a weakness in the glutes. So you got to squeeze the butt cheeks, rebuild that back up, alleviate some lower back pain.
Well, and one thing that I've noticed too, since I kind of really started getting in better shape, I noticed even helping on the ring crew at the last CEW show and getting loading in the ring. I'm like, this is a hell of a lot easier than it was, 6 months ago. Because that ring ain't no fucking joke. I don't care what people say.
No.
And ring crew ain't no joke. Like, if you don't respect the ring crew, people get the fuck out of here. That shit's hard,
I absolutely
man.
agree. I'm a firm believer in the old school mindset of everybody on the show should be setting up and tearing down the ring.
Yeah. I actually enjoy that part. I enjoy getting there early and helping set up the ring. I think it's fun.
Me too. And again, it's just like a lot of things. It's you investing yourself in what you're about to do. A lot of young guys take it for granted, like, oh, I'm the star. I don't need to be doing that. It's kind of like, I always liken it to the movie Gladiator. When he takes that knee, he reaches down, he feels the dirt in the Coliseum or on the battlefield. Like, I want to get my hands on that ring. I want to feel it. I want to know my battleground before I get in there. That's just me personally on that one.
That's a great analogy. I love that. I haven't put together too many rings. I ring announced
we
for
can,
about
we can change that.
That's fair. I'm happy to.
I know a guy or two.
I know a couple guys, so I'm happy to change that here. I will say,
where do you live? We'll have one in front of your house in 3 hours.
All right, that works for me.
Pull up to Chris's house. His mom will love it. Hey, we brought a ring for you to set up. Set it up in the front yard.
Yep. I might want to move it to the backyard. There's more room there. There's a tree right in the middle of the front yard that may be a hindrance. But no, I've put together a ring practically by myself once. It was me and the promoter. So I can understand where you're coming from there. I don't ever want to put a ring together by myself again. That was not that was not an enjoyable experience at the time, but no, I'd be happy to get my hands dirty and get a little extra work in. It sounds like fun. It probably would be the death of me for that particular day. I don't know if I could do much else after that, but at least not right now.
No, Zach, that is really kind of the key point, though, is that's a hallmark moment to me. I don't care what number you saw on the scale. You experienced an actual moment in your life where you went, wow, this working out has made this moment in my life easier or better or more enjoyable. And that's when it becomes real. That's when it really means something to you beyond just, oh, I hit that number. Now what do I do?
Well, and like for me too, and I mentioned this, I feel like every episode, I've also noticed it helps my mental health with my working out. So it's like, and it helps the anxiety a bit. Notice that too. And I'm like, even if it's not for the health benefits, the mental health benefits that I've seen from, working out too, I feel like has given me more motivation to keep doing it. It's like, okay, so if I hit that goal, great, but I know what it's going to do for me mentally. It's going to put me in a much better headspace.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things we take for granted is how much control our vagus nerve has over our body. And what that does is it basically takes that fight and flight response we get from every little anxiety throughout the day and just contains it in our body like bottled lightning. And then we never do anything with it. And that's why we get progressively more anxious and progressively more stressed. And we start having panic attacks. But we start getting overwhelmed with life because we don't allow it an outlet. And exercise is one of those things that allows for a release of some of that fight and flight and some of that adrenaline and some of that residual anxiety, and allows our body to kind of return to that baseline relaxed nature where we aren't as anxious and we aren't as overwhelmed with the worries of the world.
And it works on not just a mental level with that, but a physical level. You get that anxiety built up and you start feeling your shoulders clenching and tightening. And just getting that physical activity loosens that up quite a bit too.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Now, Justin, one more. I do want to
Yeah.
ask some wrestling related questions because this
Yeah.
is wrestling fitness. I know you mentioned you had a couple injuries here over the last several years. Do you feel like, with your personal training knowledge, you've been able to recover like any faster from those injuries by any means? Because it seems like, at least outside looking, it seems like you have come back relatively quick and pretty solid shape. I mean, you just had a tremendous feud with your old former tag team partner there over in APW, and it's just like, things like that. Watching you over the last several years, do you feel like your recovery time is easier, or what's your thoughts on that?
100%, absolutely. The prime example was 2012. It was actually 2013. I was probably my biggest. 2012, early 2013. I was really pushing to try and get signed somewhere, even though I knew I was a little north of the age they were looking for at the time. I was just working out really hard and was feeling really good about myself, and found myself in a situation where I tore my left shoulder in 3 places. And because of how large I was at the time and the fact that I'd always actually put a focus on shoulder strength, bench press is not really a great mark of actual strength. It's not applicable unless you're a sumo wrestler or an offensive lineman. How many people are pushing weight away from themselves? Not many, especially not wrestlers. I want you to come to me so I can subdue you. So a lot of back and a lot of shoulder strength. And I was able to get away without even having surgery. Just some rehab, physical therapy, take it easy for a little bit. And I went from, I couldn't even lift my arm. It was that bad, but still didn't need the surgery. My recovery, I had a wrist surgery where I couldn't even use my fingers. I recovered from that fairly quick. I walked out after my knee surgery. I do think, and there's plenty of scientific evidence to support it, but my personal experience is the stronger you are, the better you're going to take any situation, any injury scenario, your body will heal quicker because it's conditioned to that healing. A workout is you deliberately tearing muscles in a specified manner to create a healing that results in stronger muscles exactly where you want them. Every workout is creating micro tears in your muscle fibers that heal back stronger. So you are conditioning your body to be broken and heal every time. Therefore, when you have bigger injuries, the troops are already trained for that. They jump into action a little quicker and they're more efficient.
Well, Justin, we don't want to take up too much more of your time here, my friend. Where can people follow you at on the social media train?
Well, try not to follow me on a train. That's a little creepy. After all these years, you think I'd be better at this, but I never actually remember my socials very well. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X.
Twitter X.
It's always Twitter.
It's always going to be Twitter to me too. That's about it. I mean,
what do you got for upcoming wrestling bookings here? Because we're heading into summer. Summer's a busy time here in Iowa for wrestling. What do you got coming up?
I got APW coming up on the 7th, and Madhouse, Rochester, 21st.
That's always a good time.
That'll be fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm gonna make a weekend out of that one. I think we're gonna find somebody to watch the kids. We're gonna do the whole show, the whole shebang. Mama's gonna get a little lit, and then maybe take a trip the next day maybe the next afternoon after we've recovered, to the Mall America with the girls. And
there you go.
So,
Justin,
I'm on vacation the whole next week after that one. So I can get real dumb. I can get real dumb at that show. Expect me to hurt myself.
Well, before we officially wrap things up, Justin, what is the best piece of advice you can give anyone that is on this fitness journey like Zach and I are on?
forget the numbers, forget your weight, forget what workout you feel needs. It doesn't matter the exercise. It doesn't even matter what you eat. The one thing that matters more than anything else, show up, be consistent. I don't care if it's 5 minutes a day. If you can be consistent 5 minutes a day, it's better than consistently 0 every day.
Amen. Amen. That's a great way to close this episode out. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Zach, do you have any final thoughts for the evening?
You know what? I don't, man. I'm excited to see where we're going to be out here again a month from now. And then as the summer continues. And yeah, man, it's just, if you haven't yet, follow Justin on any social media. Just type in Justin Decent. You'll probably find him. Follow us on all of our social media accounts. Just search Wrestling with Fitness. And yeah, that's about it. Follow Chris's podcast, Card Subject Change, my other podcast, Shotgun Wrestling Radio. And I think that's about wraps up here for the week, Chris.
Absolutely. If you're following us on Facebook, go ahead and hop over to our YouTube. Give us a like there. We've got our whole archive on YouTube. I know Facebook is doing this thing where they delete live videos after a certain amount of time, but you'll be able to always find all our episodes on our YouTube page, Wrestling with Fitness. But that's going to put a bow on this episode. So I'll see you Sunday for Card Subject to Change with my co-host there, Nick. Never Wrong Nick Bull. Zach will be back next week, correct, for Shotgun Wrestling Radio?
Hopefully, yes. That's planned.
But yeah, in the meantime, get out there, do the work, and enjoy yourselves here. We'll see you next month on Wrestling with Fitness.
This has been a For Frequency's Sake Podcast Network production.